Well, that's Mark Wills, the new release of the song Looking for America. And that's the type of message we need to see if we're going to get this country back through the popular culture. And so I just salute Diamond Gusset Jeans for promoting this and posting it on their site and getting behind it and giving away free copies of it when people visit the site and some of the special offers they have to get blue jeans made in America. And, of course, that's gusset.com/America. Okay, I will hold him to the end of the hour. Then I'll take calls in that first little segment. And I promise I'll take calls while Keiser's on for everybody that's holding, because I want to get to everybody. But there's so much news to cover in the 21 minutes we've got left of this hour with Wayne Madsen. WayneMadsenReport.com. Our sites, of course, are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Between 85 and 99, Madsen held a series of jobs, first working for RCA as government consultant and contract for the National Security Agency. Later, he worked for the Navy's Naval Defense Automation Command. He actually hunted down submarines. As a civilian employee, after this, Madsen briefly established his own consulting firm, then worked for the National Bureau of Standards and later for the State Department. In 1990, he joined the CSC, working in 1990 until 97, where he joined the Electronic Privacy Information Center. Great folks. As a senior fellow, in late January 2005, Madsen left Epic, again, he just has written for some of the biggest publications in the country, and we appreciate him joining us to talk about a host of issues. But let me, before we get into Operation Gladio, Gladio reprised, more false flag operations. Everybody's really upset about the bird situation. Now they're finding a whole bunch more dead in Louisiana, not just in Beebe, Arkansas. The issue here is, as a bird hunter who shot plenty of dove and quail, you shoot them with a shotgun, the pellets don't pulverize their flesh and liquefy their organs. They say they're disease-free. This looks like some type of weird government test or something. Or what else could it be, Wayne Madsen, from your wide, well-read brain? What's your gut on this, Wayne?
Well, two things come to mind. We know that that particular part of Arkansas, very close by in Guy, Arkansas, has experienced a number of earthquakes, what they call an earthquake swarm. We also know that a lot of migratory birds use the low magnetic field of the earth to navigate, and obviously something may have interfered with that. What? I don't know. Is it natural occurring, or is it something that could be related to some military experiments? I think the jury is out. The one thing I don't buy is that these birds all fell out of the sky because somebody was setting off fireworks on New Year's Eve. I mean, the people they're parading out on local and national news look like they're right off of the set of Green Acres.
Yeah.
They really don't have much, fish and wildlife experts, they come to these conclusions after how many six-packs of Budweiser. The other thing is the drumfish. Again, they are very susceptible to sound. They use sound, of course, so they're very susceptible to any kind of frequency. So I think there's obviously more to this story, and I'm not a scientist. I don't want to pretend that I am one, but I'm really not buying.
But you did deal with sonar in the Navy, and
yeah.
I mean, I'm a layman myself, but I know they don't just have the sound cannons. The military admits they've developed high-powered acoustic weapons that can literally shatter steel buildings. I mean, we're talking super-type weapons, or we know that when there have been earthquakes, it can even create bizarre fields that are even more powerful.
Exactly.
So there's no telling here. It's just people are really wanting to know. But going back to these buoys they set up all over the world, and the correlation of beached whales and other marine mammals, whenever the Navy and other navies have done these high-powered ping tests, we know that whales communicate over thousands of miles and now can't because there's so much acoustical pollution in the ocean. Is that an interesting line to follow as well?
Well, yes, and of course, and again with earthquakes, of course, they will affect sound transmission. They will cause sound transmission, low-frequency transmission in the ocean, and we've had a huge number of earthquakes reported just in the last year. A second one in Yorkshire in England yesterday, a week after one near the Scottish border. So these are not the areas that you expect to hear about this kind of activity. England, New Hampshire the other day, and some other very unusual areas. So is it natural? Is it man-made? I think that's the question that needs to be answered right now.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the earthquake issue, because that's where I was going next. Then we'll shift gears into the Gladio situation. Is the new Madrid fault earthquake zone coming to life? The American Dream blog wrote this up and links to a whole bunch of mainstream news articles that they are having all sorts of earthquakes all over the Midwest and onto the East Coast. And, of course, for those that don't know, just since the colonies have been colonized, just in the last 300 years, the Mississippi River has, changed course twice that I know of, in some cases by many miles, after huge mega earthquakes. Imagine what a big earthquake would do to the Mississippi if that fault line becomes active again. I mean, where I live in Austin has 3 extinct, some argue dormant, volcanoes. I mean, this country is covered, and we know the big super caldera that is Yellowstone has become very active again. So certainly I think your point about the earthquakes, they've measured more than 500 earthquakes, some as high as 3.8 magnitude in places like Indiana, and it all seems to be building. So that would add more weight to what you're saying.
Right, and the EU Commission actually came out with a statement last week saying that 2010 was a record year for quakes, and the Austrian government said that they had 50 registered in Austria, 10 in Tyrol province itself, and that was a record too. So we have European governments and institutions talking about this is not normal. The USGS, on the other hand, the U.S. Geological Survey, is always saying, oh, this is quite normal, when in fact it is not normal, and we have the EU and Austria backing up the fact that it's just not normal.
Sure, and investigators, again, are puzzled in Louisiana over bird deaths as well. That's up on Infowars.com from theadvocate.com. Okay, Wayne, in the time we've got left, I really pay attention to everything you say, but I really pay attention when you start talking about Gladio, and we've got your report up at prisonplanet.com. Gladio reprise, more false flag operations. Why don't you briefly fill folks in on Gladio? And then that's what I thought, seeing these latest events, that it mirrors what we saw with Gladio in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, always rearing its head during political tumult.
Well, Gladio was a CIA operation which actually used a lot of the assets of the Gehlen organization. Now, Reinhard Gehlen was a Gestapo officer in Hitler's secret police. He was used by the CIA after World War II to help set up what were known as stay-behind networks. In the event of a Soviet invasion of Europe, there would be these units, these cells that would have access to buried or hidden away caches of weapons and ammunition to do guerrilla attacks on Soviet occupying forces. These not only existed in NATO countries, but also, more interestingly, in neutral countries like Switzerland, Austria, Finland, and a few others, Spain before it joined NATO, and a few others. So what happened in the 70s and 80s was we saw, with the rise of leftist activists in Europe, there were false flag attacks done by Gladio units that had access to these weapons that were then blamed on the Red Brigades of Italy, the Red Army faction in Germany. They kidnapped and assassinated former Italian Prime Minister Aldo Moro. That was blamed on the left, when in fact it looks like that was carried out by these Gladio units. Also, there was a bombing of a train station in Bologna, Italy, that was later found to be carried out by the Gladio unit. So these, of course, were all blamed on the leftists. Now what we're seeing is, in Europe, we see that the boogeyman of the Islamist jihadis is kind of fading, although we see roundups. But we've heard the Italian police commander say these recent bombings at embassies, or attempted bombings at embassies in Rome, and similar bombings in Athens of embassies, are being carried out by a network of anarchists throughout Europe. Well, that sounds amazingly like the charges we heard from Denmark when they rounded up 5 people. They claim were trying to blow up a newspaper office in Copenhagen, that this was a pan-European network. I think with the impending general strikes and street demonstrations in Europe coming up this year on the austerity programs, the budget cuts, the pension cuts, we're seeing the bankers and the oligarchs in Europe trying to now link the left movement, the workers and students movement, to the jihadists, and we're going to see a full-court press to try to link those two organizations and go after people who are out in the streets rightfully and justifiably protesting what the bankers have done to these various economies.
Very well said. I mean, it's classic, and we see Gladio raising its ugly head, really based on the NATO option. Gladio, as you mentioned, got its name because that was the one area that went public. The head of Italian intelligence went public. Later, the Italian president went public. That the CIA and NATO were in there blowing up school buses, trains, you name it. They love killing kids, but then blame it on whoever their political enemies were who were becoming politically popular. Well, now you got all these people mad at the big banks, so suddenly there's all these bombs going off, and the state gets to then pose as the savior and say, look, those that are against the banks raping you, they're terrorists. I mean, it's very simple psychology. Hi, this is Alex Jones. Did you know that the global elite are now storing non-hybrid seeds in secret storage vaults near the Arctic Circle? Did you know that in a real meltdown, non-hybrid seeds can become more valuable than silver or gold? It's true, seeds have outperformed even gold and silver before in this country, and it's possible that could even happen again. So our friends at Solutions from Science have put together the perfect mix of non-hybrid seeds. They call it a survival seed bank, and it can produce an endless supply of nutrient-dense food for you and your family. And here's the best part. These seeds have not been genetically modified in any way, and you actually get enough seeds to plant a full-acre crisis garden. So visit them today at survivalseedbank.com. That's survivalseedbank.com, or give them a call at 877-327-0365. That's 877-327-0365. Remember, in a real crisis, non-hybrid seeds are the ultimate barter item. This is Alex Jones for survivalseedbank.com.
Hello. At ofthefield.com, we strive to empower you with wild food preparedness. We get lots of amazing positive feedback, most of which we feature on ofthefield.com. Here's a small sample of all that people like you have to say about the wild food experience.
I have about 15 wild food guides on my bookshelf, which left me wondering if I even needed another book. Boy, was I wrong. My knowledge exploded to an entire universe of wild foods.
In olden days, it was the norm to know which plants are edible and which are not.
Dear Linda, just wanted to let you know I received your book today. Wow.
I watched the DVD last night. I was awestruck. What wonderful work you have done. This information can bless